Why are so many Jews liberal and Democrat?
Well, you know, I don't speak for all the Jews in this country. In fact, I probably speak for very few of them. I'm not exactly sure, but I think minorities generally, Jews, blacks, what have you, they feel that the government can be a force of progress, and the government can be both. The government can be a force of progress. It can also be a force for tyranny. And so you need to be careful. You can't be down the line pro-big government. You know, I'm a conservative. I'm not an anarchist. I believe there are certain things the government should do, and I think the Constitution sets it out. And if there need to be changes, there are ways to make those changes. And there can be lots more changes in the states. And if the states are violating the 14th Amendment when it comes to race and so forth, then the federal government has an absolute role in that. But to just federal government, nationalize decision makings and so forth. I mean, I would say to my Jewish brothers and sisters, it wasn't ExxonMobil that sent all those Jews to the gas chambers. It wasn't any company. It wasn't the capitalist system. It was an out-of-control, rogue, tyrannical dictator. And obviously we're not that in this country. But what I'm trying to say is we have certain things in this country that make us so wonderful and so free. And minorities, black, Jews, Hispanic, whatever, ought to recognize that. And we should be the ones screaming at the top of our lungs for liberty, thanking God for our Constitution and our system of government, and not attacking it constantly.
Which Mark Levin is predominant in life, the one that we're listening to on the radio, or the fellow that had the New York Times bestseller Rescuing Sprite?
Oh, my dog book. Well, you know, most human beings are a little more complex. You know, people want to put people in categories, you know, for their own psychological well-being. Levin, you know, he chews on dog bones. You know, that's sort of like. I've got different aspects of my life. One personality, but I love dogs, and I love my dogs, and I think part of that is due to the fact is that they rely on us 100%, and they bring out the absolute best qualities in human beings. In fact, they have qualities that human beings would do well to copy. And so when we lost Sprite, who was a shelter dog that my wife and kids brought home, it was absolutely devastating for me, because when I do my radio broadcasts, often the dogs are with me, and he was at my feet all the time. And to not have him there, and you know, after the show, I go up and have dinner, the dogs are with me, the kids have already left, my wife's somewhere. So they're definitely part of the family. And I actually thought about quitting radio, quitting Landmark, and getting into some different type of lifestyle that would have me working with dogs and so forth. But then I can't go into these shelters. They're too upsetting to me, because, you know, some of the dogs aren't going to survive. So I thought about that, and I talked to Rush and Sean, and they both talked me out of it. Said, you know, this too shall pass. These are my buddies. They're really good guys. And I write about all that in Rescuing Sprite. And nobody thought Rescuing Sprite would be a New York Times bestseller. My publisher thought it might do well.
Who published it?
Simon & Schuster, Pocketbooks. But
why did they buy this, by the way?
The book?
I mean, you did Men in Black about the Supreme Court.
Right.
Did they also publish that one?
No. Regnery did that.
And Regnery's a conservative publisher. Right. Why would Simon & Schuster out of the blue? How did you get them to publish your book?
Well, we were in talks with them about a different book, this book I'm writing now, on conservatism and liberalism and so forth. And so when he passed away, I decided I didn't want to write any books.
When did he pass away?
He passed away December of '06. So I started writing this story about Sprite and the family and dogs and so forth. And they said, well, tell you what, we'll publish that book if you'll still write the other book, because they wanted the other book. So they did, and to their surprise, it sold 350,000 copies.
And it's not even out in paperback yet?
No, I don't know if they're going to re-release it. There's some talk about that, but No, it's a little hardback pocketbook. Pocketbooks does paperbacks, and they do 2 or 3 hardbacks a year.
What did it sell for?
Well, $22, I think. But if you go to Amazon
Yeah.
or anywhere, you get 30-40% off.
And how did it become a bestseller? John Katz, who used to be with CBS, has done the same thing, writing books about dogs, and is living that way.
Well, I've written one, and will only write one about. How did it sell so many?
Where was the...
Well, it helps that I'm on the radio with 5.5 million listeners.
Right.
It helps that Rush and Sean were very interested in the book. They're dog lovers too. Rush is also a cat lover, and he has a cat named Pumpkin, who's like a dog. And so he also lost another cat, and he went through some of this. And Sean has 2 dogs and an older dog, and he dreads the day. And we talk about these things. And so they were all interested in the book too. And plus, it's a damn good book.
When's this other book on
Liberty and Tyranny?
Yeah, when's that coming out?
Whenever I can finish it. It'll come out early to mid next year.
I want to run another clip from your radio show.
Yeah.
This was from September the 25th.
What'd I say?
This has something to do with Letterman.
Oh, okay, good.
It's about 1 minute and 35 seconds.
All right.
Let's listen.
He can't lift his arms. Look at him. And they call him old all the time. David Letterman, you buck-toothed freak. Think it's so funny? McCain looks older than he is because he has trouble moving. That's why. Because they broke some vertebrae. Because they routinely dislocated his shoulders. Because they beat him with a pipe. Because they hung him with his arms tied behind his back to a ceiling. You think those old jokes are funny, you buck-toothed fruit cake? It's not funny. It's not funny at all. Say what you will about the man. So what? He can't use a computer and use a damn keyboard because he's physically unable to. So what? Didn't spend 3 years as a Saul Alinsky agitator in the streets trying to figure out how to overthrow his government either. That's right, and I said that too. Didn't spend year after year surrounded by Marxist professors and Marxist hoodlums brainwashing him about how awful his country is either. No, he fought those people. Yeah, let's call it like it is. You want to talk turkey? Let's talk turkey. Big deal. Barack Obama can send an email to some Hollywood starlet or George Clooney. Yip-de-doo.
That's all?
For the moment.
Yes.
Why the personal attack, the buck-tooth?
Because his attacks on McCain were very personal. These jokes about McCain's physical appearance and his physical movements, they have nothing to do with his age. That's how they camouflage these very nasty, vicious attacks on him. He can't move his shoulders. There's a movie out about him. There are books out about him. He was brutally, brutally tortured when they would hang him almost with meat hooks with his arms tied behind his back and his shoulders kept popping out. And they beat him with these metal pipes and they beat him to a pulp over and over and over again and he almost didn't live. So when he does these things and everything, they think it's funny. They try and relate it back to the fact that he's 72 years old. It has nothing to do with his age. And they've been doing these jokes over and over and over again, and they don't do Obama jokes because that would be politically incorrect. So they can get away with one cheap shot after another on McCain. And look, I'm not the biggest McCain guy, but I'm outraged by this because the guy is a hero. The guy really loves his country. The guy really was awful. I mean, so tortured so awfully. So if these guys can shovel it, then I can shovel it too.
Why then would Senator McCain go back on his show?
Well, this is the problem with McCain I'll never understand. He's so concerned about how these media types and comedians and so forth think of them. As you can tell, I think nothing of them. So I can't read his mind. I don't know if he's being advised to do it. I think it's a complete waste of time. You know, you want to meet David Letterman, do it after the election. There's more important things to do. But David Letterman's a liberal. He's made it quite clear that he's a liberal.